Hello, my name is Paul Henry, Security and Forensic Analyst at Lumension. Welcome to our Patch Tuesday update for November 2012. Well, Microsoft serves up a turkey for Thanksgiving. IT administrators may find they're not going to have much to be thankful for this Thanksgiving with the disruptive Patch Tuesday headed their way. With 6 Microsoft bulletins, 4 of which are critical, and some restarts required, along with a host of other issues, IT can expect a disruptive Patch Tuesday this month. Right off the top, it's disappointing to see the critical bulletins impacting more than just legacy code, as we've come to expect in recent months. These bulletins impact many current generation products, and that's concerning. Now, nothing is ever 100% secure, and albeit mistakes are made in software, but it's still ugly to see. Looking at the release, MS-12071 is an update for IE9. It's a pretty standard but critical culminative IE update. It addresses 3 CVEs. Now, nothing is currently under attack as reported by Microsoft. However, this is a high priority update and should be considered the highest priority, especially for those running Windows 7 or Vista. MS-12075 is an interesting one because it's a true type font issue. It resolves 3 vulnerabilities, the worst of which is remote code execution. Now, Microsoft has been dealing with font issues for a while now. True type fonts can be embedded all over the place, and the Windows kernel mode driver renders these fonts. If the fonts are embedded in a browser or a Word document, it's rendered in the kernel mode driver and winds up becoming a kernel mode exploit. An unauthenticated low-rights user could visit a website, the font gets rendered, and it gets rendered as system. This is a very efficient attack mode, so Microsoft likes to close out font issues quickly. This is as high a priority as MS-1207. These 2 bulletins will be the 2 biggest attack vectors in this batch. MS-12072 addresses 2 CVEs that are critical remote code executions. This is a briefcase issue where you've mapped drives with briefcase. If you've mapped over the vulnerable or malicious briefcase, you could get remote code executions on the machine that you mapped from. There are some prerequisites, but at the end of the day, it's a critical and ugly vulnerability, and it affects XP through Windows 7, so it is another high priority. MS-12074 affects .NET and fixes 5 vulnerabilities in the .NET framework. It applies to all versions of Windows. Worst case scenario, it allows for man-in-the-middle attacks, which could lead to remote code execution. This is critical, but not necessarily your highest priority. MS-12076 is an Excel vulnerability. It's a file format bug, which is marked as important as Microsoft users still have to take action before the attack can in fact execute. MS-12073 is a moderate update for IIS, which could cause some concern. But this is an information disclosure issue via FTP only, so it's only a concern if you have IIS set up to provide FTP services. It's moderate, which means typically attackers have to authenticate in order to pull off any attack. And we recognize if they authenticate, they pretty much already own your machine anyway. Now, there are also 2 re-releases in November. You may recall that last month Microsoft put out an advisory about incorrect timestamps and some patches. Well, they'll be re-releasing the patches to correct this issue. There will be 2 such re-releases this month. Issues outside of Microsoft. Adobe just released a series of patches and announced that going forward they're going to integrate with Microsoft's Patch Tuesday process. This is encouraging to see. However, the same week they announced this, a brand new Day Zero appeared in the wild and is currently being used in attack toolkits. Viewpin is talking this month about their new Windows 8.0 day. It's sad to see a talented company choosing not to follow responsible disclosure and use this as a chance to line your pockets while putting the community at risk. The scary part about the Viewpin news is that when they indicate they're selling packaged exploits, what ends up happening is people use the packaged exploits as a framework and slot in other bugs. Now, while Viewpin claims to sell only to certain vetted governments, there's really no way to know for sure. In Apple news, they released 9 patches recently, one of which appears to be a buffer overflow in QuickTime that's over a year old. The date on the CV is 2011. That's concerning. Now, the Apple patches are supposed to be somewhat automated, but hey, the QuickTime patches are on Windows. So if you're running WSUS, that means you're not protected. You've got to go out and get the patch yourself. It's still also concerning that Apple is not being transparent about their security. They push out patches calling them feature enhancements, while in fact, they're fixing critical issues. If Apple wants to be an enterprise player, they need to grow up and start providing IT admins with enough information to make patching decisions. We've seen a bunch of patches on Google Chrome. The Google stuff fortunately patches itself, so no great shakes there. However, people do need to be aware that those patches are out there. Finally, Twitter sent out an email to users who were impacted by their recent password problems. If you didn't receive an email from Twitter, your account is probably secure and your password's okay. We don't want to overload Twitter with password resets, so if you're not impacted, you wouldn't have received an email. If you did receive an email, we recommend you change your Twitter password as soon as possible. As always, remember to create secure passwords. A little hint here, 1234 doesn't count as secure. This has been our Patch Tuesday update for November 2012. Thank you for listening.